My name is Ben Allen. I'm the state senator representing this beautiful community that stretches from Malibu all the way down to Palos Verdes, and of course includes this wonderful community of the Palisades. Today marks the 100th day since that terrible fire swept down these hills and destroyed so many lives and so many homes. We chose to situate this press conference here today by this very special place, Palisades Bowl, Tahitian Terrace, this wonderful mobile home park where I spent many happy days. One of my mom's very best friends lived here. We'd have an annual July 3rd party here to watch the fireworks or the drone displays. And this was a vibrant, wonderful, living, breathing, special community. And you see it here in ruins, like so much of the Palisades, like so much of Altadena, which my colleague, Senator Perez, represents. It's been 100 days of despair, of destruction, but also of resilience, of growth, of rebuilding. And it's been 100 days of challenge. First of all, the challenge of governance and making sure that people from around the country, indeed around the world, knew what we were going through, getting the support from leadership in Washington, D.C. and Sacramento. Each of us brought leaders from Congress, from the legislature, from the White House, from the governor's office, to these sites, to Altadena, to let them walk these streets, see the destruction, see what we had been through, see what our communities had suffered through. And we brought Republicans and Democrats alike to walk these streets with us. And we've seen a coming together. We saw a letter submitted to the president from the entire California delegation, Democrats and Republicans together, asking for support for Los Angeles without conditions. We saw the leadership of the Republican and Democratic leaders from the legislature come here and pledge support and pledge solidarity. And we've been working hard ever since to try to come up with solutions. And there's been a lot of success so far. We saw our Red Cross team up with FEMA, state partners, local partners to create these disaster recovery centers, which created one-stop shop opportunities for victims of the fires to come and get all the assistance they needed, everything from getting new driver's licenses to getting all their questions answered about FEMA help, getting to meet with the Army Corps of Engineers to talk about the cleanup of their sites. We had sessions with the insurance commissioner set up all over town where people could come and meet face-to-face with their insurers, with the FAIR Plan, with the Department of Insurance to get support. We've been working with our schools to make sure that they can get rebuilt and that we have also transfer sites, that the school districts that take in kids who were displaced from the fires get the financial support that they need, but also that we get siting for schools. So just Pali High, for example, will be back in full swing at a reconstructed Sears department store in Santa Monica that's going to bring more than 2,000 students and teachers back together to resume their educational experience. There's been millions of dollars in grant funding distributed to thousands of impacted businesses and workers. The state put forward an initial $2.5 billion. Right after the fire, we just supported a whole new tranche of funding out of Prop 4 for wildfire resilience in our hillsides here just this last week. And we're on track to reopen the PCH next month, a massive relief for businesses that have been struggling with public access to the area. We're also working on so many areas relating to the recovery of our region, including helping our entertainment workforce through a modernized tax credit program for TV and film production. And so many of my friends here have been working with us on that effort as well. And we've just started the process of permitting. So the permits have already started going out for the rebuild of homes, which is just a really encouraging milestone, which we expect many more people to hit soon. So we've got lots to celebrate, but we know we have so much to do, so many challenges, And one of the things we're going to be talking about today is the efforts certainly underway right now to get legislation passed to fix all sorts of problems that have sprung up as a result of these fires that we know we need to get fixed. So one great friend and partner in this effort has been Senator Traci Park, who literally was just elected in November, started her work in January, and the next day the fires hit. So she's been drinking from a proverbial fire hose, has been doing an extraordinary job, represents Pasadena, Altadena, and those hard-hit communities. And I just have to say how impressed I've been with her for the hard work she's put in, for the resilience and the heart and compassion that she showed to her community. She's been an incredible leader, and I want her to talk about some of the legislation she's working on in response to these fires. Senator Perez.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Senator Sasha Renee Perez, and I represent the 25th Senate District, which includes Altadena, Pasadena, the San Gabriel Mountains, and all of the areas that were impacted by the Eaton fires. I want to begin by first thanking my colleague and my friend, Senator Ben Allen. You know, as he just noted, these fires happened on my second day in office, and Senator Ben Allen has just been such an incredible, strong ally and has just worked with me every single step of the way. All of this has been incredibly difficult to navigate, and we've had so many phone calls, so many meetings together, so we could figure out the recovery process for both the Palisades and Altadena and Pasadena. The 100-day mark is an important moment for us to examine our progress in this road to recovery. We have moved quickly in some areas, such as cleanup and debris removal, but other efforts are continuing to move slow, and I want to recognize that. And we still have so much work to do. I spent this past week meeting with community leaders who have been at the front lines delivering resources to their neighbors in Altadena and Pasadena, church pastors, neighborhood block captains, civil rights groups, and nonprofits. They highlighted the challenges our residents continue to face with accessing disaster relief, the uncertainty that residents feel as Trump threatens to eliminate FEMA, and the need to protect and preserve the Altadena community throughout the rebuilding process. This is why I'm authoring 12 pieces of legislation related to fire recovery. But today I'm going to talk with you about 3 of the bills that I'm working on. First and foremost, Senator Allen and I are joint authoring SB 610 that will provide greater protections for homeowners, tenants, and mobile home users. The bill requires the state of California to act swiftly to collaborate with banks and mortgage lenders to provide mortgage forbearance programs to impacted homeowners. Additionally, the bill will clearly spell out the obligations of landlords and mobile home park owners during a state of emergency to clear toxic debris and ash and cap rent increases on mobile home parks for 12 months following a disaster. The second bill is SB 658, the Community Preservation Act. This legislation will support community preservation efforts in the Eaton and Palisades communities by requiring LA County to develop a process where governments and nonprofit organizations can make known their intent to purchase properties in the fire areas. And property owners can choose to notify the county and nonprofits of their intent to sell property in fire areas. The goal here is to keep properties in local hands and groups who are committed to being good stewards of the community and not simply speculators or Wall Street firms looking to cash in on our disaster. Finally, I'm authoring SB 293, the Generational Homeowner Protection Act. This bill would allow LA County homeowners impacted by the wildfires to bring their property records up to date without penalty and reduce the immediate tax burden associated with property value reassessments. If a homeowner did not properly transfer title when transferring the home to another family member, it could deny families their generational wealth and disqualify homeowners from assistance programs. This legislation is desperately needed to allow families to recover and rebuild in a way that ensures communities like Altadena can maintain their identity and their culture. I want to thank County Assessor Jeffrey Prang for working on this legislation with my office to help homeowners avoid unexpected and added financial hardships. I want to make one thing very clear. Altadena is not for sale. As we mark day 100 since this tragedy, my colleagues and I will continue to work together, collaborate, and do everything in our power to help the Palisades and Eaton Fire victims recover. We will be working hard, whether it's day 100 or day 1,000, to ensure we build back stronger than ever. Thank you all so much.
Thank you so much, Senator. Thank you so much, and thanks for your leadership. You know, one of the things that has come up in a major way is the challenges of insurance. We know that our whole system is facing a real inflection point, and there's so many layers to this. But I want to say that I just appreciate the engagement of the insurance commissioner. I've been hearing from so many constituents who've had challenges with insurance. We've passed those claims on to the insurance commissioner, and nearly every single time they're able to get the issue resolved. And so I appreciate the work of his department. And we just encourage constituents who are having challenges with insurance to reach out to us, and we'll do whatever we can to engage their office and get help. One of the many things that came up in the course of our many town halls and meetings with constituents was the fact that for so many people, they've been paying for contents coverage where they supposedly they're going to get all the contents that they lost in their home that got burnt to a crisp covered under this insurance plan that they've been paying for years. And yet, and yes, many insurance companies have said, you know what, we're going to pay you right up to the contents coverage. But there have been some that have foot dragged. And I have to say, when you're going through the process of having lost your home, you're trying to figure out where to relocate, where to send your kid to school, where to do about your business, how to deal with all the madness associated with a relocation and having lost your home. The last thing you need to do is come up with an itemized list of every single item that you lost your home just to get the coverage that you've been paying for years in many cases. And so I've been working with the Insurance Commissioner's Office on SB 495, which is the Eliminate the List Act, which will say you will get if you lose everything, if you have complete loss of your home, we're going to ask your insurer to pay for the full contents coverage that you have been paying for. And so I want to thank the insurance commissioner for his partnership on this really important effort and for all the work he's doing to ensure that the insurers are covering folks during this very difficult time. And I'd like to ask him to make a few remarks. Insurance Commissioner Ricardo Lara.
Thank you, Senator Allen, and thank you, Mayor Bass, Senator Perez, and everybody for being here today. You know, as we gather, because we gather here today, not only to mark the 100 days, but because Californians and wildfire survivors deserve decisive action. People want to rebuild with dignity and fairness, and it is our responsibility to deliver those results that reflect their strength and their determination. Our top priority at the department after every catastrophic event is to help people recover quickly and comprehensively, and more importantly, on their own terms. Since the fires began, I have been actively engaged in the affected communities, ensuring that insurance companies fulfill their claims promptly and full. Here's what we've accomplished in the past 100 days. We provided one-on-one assistance to over 10,000 wildfire survivors. We organized and conducted 4 intensive weekend insurance workshops where we facilitated meetings with insurance companies, enabling many survivors to obtain their claim checks on site. We staffed disaster recovery centers in Altadena and at UCLA, and we extended our hotline hours to include our weekends to cover as many survivors as possible. One of the key lessons I've learned from every single wildfire, this is my 115th catastrophic wildfire across California, is the importance to meet people where they are, answering their questions and expediting their claims as quickly as possible. We will continue to do this now and as we enter California's wildfire season this summer. Misinformation spreads rapidly after disasters, confusing survivors and hindering recovery. That is why, for the first time ever in California's history, I launched the first public claims tracker to provide clear information and hold insurance companies accountable for prompt claims payment. The public can find our claims tracker at insurance.ca.gov. Let me share with you the latest data. There has been close to 38,000 claims filed. 27,000 of them are partially paid, with $12.1 billion paid to date. We will continue to update these figures as the rebuilding process begins and continues. It is also important to note that the market is responding as it should after a disaster, and we will continue to monitor to make sure it does accordingly. As you can see, the claims are being processed, claims are being paid out, and I've also obtained the support of global reinsurance companies to continue to support our LA survivors. Survivors need our support to tackle the challenges we face in the field and throughout the state. I am sponsoring a comprehensive legislative package based on our years of insurance town halls held in every single county in California. This package aims at fixing our broken system. It expedites payments to survivors, strengthen our consumer protections, and implement the most significant regulatory reforms to our insurance market in 30 years. I am grateful to our legislative leadership and to our local champions like Senator Allen and Senator Perez for joining me in advancing these essential reforms. Our efforts will ensure that individuals receive their payments fully, fairly, and promptly, while also protecting them from losing their insurance and falling prey to scams. For 4 months now, on the onset of these fires, my mission continues to be the same: aiding recovering efforts while preparing for future wildfires. We must ensure that insurance companies remain stable, expand their footprint in our state, and remain solvent to further protect consumers. This legislative package and budget priorities align with these goals and will enhance our strategy to better prepare us for future catastrophes. As Senator Allen said, SB 495, the Eliminate the List Act. On February 6th, I issued a notice to all residential property insurance companies in California, urging them to waive the detailed inventory requirements. Most insurers responded positively, offering at least 75% of contents coverage without requiring an itemization, with some even agreeing to 100%. While this action is voluntary for insurers, after these LA fires, we need to ensure that everyone pays 100% of their contents coverage without a detailed inventory list. Survivors who have just endured the trauma of a wildfire should not be re-traumatized by having them complete a ridiculous list. SB 495 fast tracks the recovery process by providing policyholders with the coverage they deserve sooner, allowing them to focus on the larger task of rebuilding their lives. After wildfires, state law provides homeowners with 1 year of protection against insurance non-renewals. However, this protection does not extend to our commercial properties, including our small businesses and affordable housing projects. This is a significant gap that we need to close immediately, which is why I'm sponsoring SB 547, the Business Insurance Protection Act, alongside Senator Perez and Rubio. This bill aims to extend the existing protections to multifamily housing, condominiums, homeowners associations, businesses, nonprofits, to ensure that they're not dropped by their insurers when they need the support the most. One more bill that I want to highlight. Currently, public adjusters can charge unlimited fees, which may ultimately diminish the funds available for consumers to rebuild their homes and their lives. To address this issue, I am sponsoring AB 597, introduced by Assemblymember Harabedian. This legislation aims to prohibit price gouging to ensure that consumers receive the maximum funds from their claim. The proposal includes a 15% cap on public adjuster fees and prohibits charging fees on payments received from insurance companies before the contract is established with the public adjuster. We need to make sure that wildfire survivors keep the most of their claim as possible to help them rebuild. In closing, we must act with urgency and purpose to protect consumers and our market, continue to implement important reforms to address the ongoing insurance crisis, and invest in wildfire recovery and mitigation. These can no longer just be mere suggestions. We cannot afford to find ourselves responding to another fire in 30, 10, or 5 years like those that devastated these exact same areas in 1993. Clearly, we didn't learn our lesson then. All of us standing here are committed to ensuring that if fires come, we need to be more resilient and better protected to save lives and properties. We know that mitigation and hardening work. We've all seen the fire-hardened homes in the Palisades and the one home that was left standing in the Lahaina fire. We must take bold political actions to address land use issues, establish community-wide mitigation standards, and promote nature-based solutions, and of course, fire hardening. If we do not act, we will face this crisis again, making it impossible to create an affordable and accessible insurance market for every Angelino. This is a crucial moment. Californians are counting on us to lead, and to lead with clarity and conviction. And I will continue to advocate for fair coverage, fast recovery, and a more resilient insurance system. Let's move forward together, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, Commissioner. Couldn't agree more. I've been reflecting on the choice of our being here. It's obviously very loud, but in some respects, I think it actually is good to underscore to folks all these trucks that keep going by, cement mixers, utility trucks, etc., are indicative of the recovery underway, because so many of these folks that you see and hear behind us are on their way up into the Palisades and into Malibu to do the hard work of helping to rebuild these communities up here that were so fire impacted. And in the end of the day, we're going to be next hearing from 3 boots on the ground leaders of this recovery effort. And let's turn next to the commander-in-chief of our city, of Los Angeles, who has been such an important leader in this recovery effort, Mayor Karen Bass.
Thank you. Thank you, Senator Allen, and our leaders in the state legislature. We're always so proud of your leadership and your efforts to address this crisis and all the other issues that we have in our state. 100 days, in some ways it feels like it's been so much longer, but it's such an emotional roller coaster. I feel very proud of what we have been able to do, but also the trauma that everyone is still going through, especially people who lost their homes. But we all have a personal connection to this. I think about this bike path, of which I have spent decades as an avid bike rider. I think about family who lived up the road. The personal connection that the senator described, Senator Allen, this hasn't touched all of Angelinos in one way or another. But this community, while enduring unimaginable challenges, there are signs of hope. And this united front, people working from different levels of government alongside of the community, is evidence of that. LA's disaster recovery is on track to be the fastest in modern California history. Thanks to the administration, Phase 1 and Phase 2 went at lightning speed. Phase 2 of the debris removal, along with the county partnership, began just 35 days after the fires ignited, roughly half the time it took after the devastating 2018 Woolsey fire. This morning, earlier today, I was at the Palisades Branch Library, a community landmark for more than 2 decades, which devastatingly burned during the wildfire. Last week, I was at the school that had been cleared and is ready to be rebuilt now with our superintendent. The library was supposed to take 30 days to clear, but instead it only took 6. And something that is true of each of these sites, I want to be clear that usually the Army Corps of Engineers does not prioritize the public areas. We know these aren't just lots. These aren't just lots. These weren't just houses. This is the heart of the community. And your home is not just a building. It's the memories, it's family, it's relationships, It's so much more. Recovery is months ahead of expectations. Water and power was restored in 2 months. The Camp Fire, it took 18 months. The first permits were issued in 57 days. At the Camp Fire, it took 123 days. Woolsey took 230. We've received over 179 applications to build already. We have a one-stop rebuilding center where you can go and contact 12 different city agencies, all in the same location. And if you are going to rebuild plus 10%, you basically are already approved. The rec center, the library, and playground, and 3 schools were cleared, and they're moving forward. The disaster recovery center that we opened within 10 days of the fires has helped over 9,000 people. We also opened 4 impacted worker and family recovery centers. Not a lot is discussed about the people that worked in the homes, on the property, and in the commercial businesses. And some of the people that worked on the property were also small business owners. It might be a gardener that had 4 homes and had employees. So the speed of this recovery operation would not have been possible without the collaboration on all levels of government. So I want to thank the administration, FEMA, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, Governor Newsom, the legislature, our city council, supervisors, and city attorney. The support of everyone coming together allows us to be successful and to continue to shatter expectations. I know that each day that residents can't return home is a day too long, but we are building back faster than expected, and we won't stop until every single family and every business has reopened its doors. There's more work to do, but LA, we are moving forward. Thank you so much, and again, thank our leader, Senator Ben Allen.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you. Thank you so much for your leadership. Now, our also from the city, our local leader of great importance here, who's been bleeding for the Palisades, our city council member, Traci Park, who's actually just back from having visited Lahaina, meeting with the leadership there, and also the governor of Hawaii to talk about their recovery efforts and see what we can learn for this community. A great partner and leader, Councilmember Traci Park.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Senator Allen, and thank you for convening us all here today. As Senator Allen just mentioned, I returned late last night from Lahaina, where I had the opportunity to see the progress and the recovery being made there. Lahaina is one of many communities that I've now had the opportunity to visit with. And each one of those visits is an opportunity to peek around the corner for what lies ahead in the Pacific Palisades and right here in Los Angeles. As we are reflecting today on the 100 days that have passed, I want to take a moment especially to remember the lives that were lost on January 7th and the families and loved ones who are still grieving for their family members. On the morning of January 7th, I was in City Hall for a city council meeting when the sky over the Palisades grew dark. The wind was picking up, the flames started moving faster, and by the afternoon, those flames were racing across the hillside, pushed by hurricane-force winds, tearing their way down towards the coast and also heading eastbound into Brentwood. I was on the ground later that morning. My team was already out in the neighborhoods going door to door, urging families to evacuate. We helped seniors, we loaded pets into cars, and we hosed down rooftops in a last-ditch effort to try to slow the fire. At the same time, our first responders were up in the hillsides, risking everything to hold the line and save lives. And they did. And I will never stop being proud of them, and I will never stop fighting to make sure they have the tools and the resources they need to do our jobs. But it wasn't until the days that followed that we really began to understand the scale and the magnitude of what we lost. Lives, more than 6,800 homes and buildings, our parks, our schools, our libraries, the very things that form the fabric of everyday life in the community. Entire neighborhoods just gone. But even in those early hours, we weren't just focused on the fire, we were already thinking about recovery. Just a week after the fire started, my office introduced the first of what has now become a set of more than 50 legislative motions focused on cutting red tape, speeding up rebuilding, protecting renters, securing FEMA help, and holding agencies accountable. And none of that would have been possible without Mayor Bass and her partnership and the partnership of every one of these elected leaders who have come across every layer of government to ensure that we are creating pathways for every Palisades resident to return home. We demanded answers from DWP about the reservoir and the water pressure. We've moved to waive permit fees and explore how AI can assist with our recovery efforts. We've created protections for displaced tenants and pet owners, set up a one-stop permit center, and called for a comprehensive after-action report to learn from this tragedy so that we can ensure it never happens again. It hasn't been easy. There are still thousands of people living outside the Palisades, still families waiting to hear from their insurance companies, still businesses struggling to stay afloat, and residents whose homes have survived the fire trying to understand if it's safe to return in the midst of the reconstruction. The truth is, we know this recovery is going to be painful and it's going to take time. And we know it isn't an abstract concept. This is real and it's personal. It's rebuilding homes, it's reopening schools, and it's restoring a community. That isn't going to happen overnight. But I know that with our shared sense of urgency, effective coordination, and leadership at every level of government, we are going to make it happen. So I'm grateful today to be here with these leaders who have come together and who are stepping up across Los Angeles and the state of California and beyond to make sure we get all Palisadians home. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Council Member. Next, we're going to hear from the mayor of another community that was so badly hit by these fires, but also by a fire a little earlier, a city that is unfortunately no stranger to the impacts of catastrophic wildfire. That's the city of Malibu, of course. Our Mayor Pro Tem, the incoming mayor of Malibu, my friend, Marianne Riggins.
Thank you, Senator Allen, Senator Perez, and all the other dignitaries that are here to acknowledge the last 100 days since what occurred on January 7th. Palisades Fire is the worst natural disaster in Malibu's history, surpassing the devastation of the 2018 Woolsey Fire. We are not here today to celebrate the progress, but to acknowledge the pain, recognize the work still ahead, and recommit ourselves to walking alongside every resident and business on this road to recovery. From the beginning, our goal has been to remove barriers and simplify the rebuilding process for those impacted. In March, the City of Malibu adopted changes to both the local coastal program and the Malibu Municipal Code to streamline the rebuilding process for properties impacted by the Palisades Fire, and further assisting the rebuilds for Woolsey, Broad, and Franklin fires. These changes provide a more efficient and predictable path forward for rebuilding after wildfires and lay a foundation for future disaster recovery. On April 10th, the California Coastal Commission approved the city's local coastal program amendment, and we're incredibly grateful for their partnership and swift action to help our community move forward. Additionally, in an effort to provide direct, in-person support, the city opened the Rebuild Center on March 10th. In just a few weeks, we've had nearly 200 consultants, with 6 plans approved and 13 under review. We know this fire exposed vulnerabilities, especially in the infrastructure in our coastal and hillside neighborhoods. The city is looking at long-term options for sewer surface in the burn area, but only if the timeline can allow expedited rebuilding. This work is ongoing, and we will be discussing the feasibility of the idea on April 24th. For those to recover, every dollar matters. The City of Malibu has waived application fees for like rebuilds for eligible property owners. We've also established a small business assistance program for micro grants to help bridge the gap for our business community as we anticipate the reopening of Pacific Coast Highway at the end of May. And to let everyone know, Malibu business is open. Our beaches, our hiking trails, our shops, our restaurants are open, and we welcome visitors to our community. Please use Metro 134, carpool, or use our canyon roads to access our community. We know that communication and transparency is key, and they have been a priority for Malibu. Since the fire, we have had 27 community meetings, workshops, and special city council meetings. Recovery isn't just about rebuilding structures. It's about rebuilding trust, restoring clarity, and making sure no one feels left out of the process. We also created a dedicated website, MalibuRebuilds.org, where residents can find information on the rebuild process, policies, forms, meeting dates, and status updates all in one place. In February, we launched our weekly recovery newsletter. We're committed to transparency and two-way communication, making sure every resident has access to accurate information and support. We know that for many, 100 days has not been enough to feel settled, secure, or whole again. There is still so much to do, and we are listening, we are learning, and we are committed to standing with our community for as long as it takes. Thank you to our partners, thank you to our residents and businesses who continue to show up, speak out, and help shape the way forward in Malibu. And thank you so much to our regional, state, and federal partners for being there to help us recover. Thank you.
Thank you. There's so many layers of work. We were just meeting yesterday with the Santa Monica Mountains Conservancy to talk about all the new state funding that we have on vegetation management up in the hillsides above the city. So thank you for your leadership, and looking forward to your incoming mayorship. We talked about insurance issues, lots of other issues that were raised by the challenges of this fire, including taxation and property tax. And I'm just proud to be partnering with our county assessor, Jeff Prang, on providing additional relief to homeowners and property owners of all forms, including nonprofit organizations that lost their special tax status as a result of their properties having been burnt. We're looking to resolve that issue. We're looking to give extended timelines and all sorts of forms of relief to property owners through SB 663 that we're working on together with the county assessor. He's been doing so much work to ensure that the transition has been smooth for people with relation to taxation. And I just want to invite to the microphone our very accomplished County Assessor Jeff Prang.
Thank you very much, Senator. Appreciate you and Senator Perez and all of my partners in government for your willingness to work so closely together to try to solve problems for people throughout all the complicated issues that people have to wrestle with in recovery. One of the things I've noted about for the victims of the fire, putting your life back together is almost like a job. There are so many different things, so many nuances, so many things that you don't even know that you need to know in order to recover. We are all committed to helping folks, but we know no matter how much we do and how fast we do it, it's not enough and it's not fast enough, and we need to constantly recommit ourselves to doing the job as best as we can. I do have some late-breaking news that I wanted to share. We estimate that there's about 24,000 properties within the burn area. Almost 14,000 of them were totally destroyed or damaged. As of Saturday this last week, we processed assessment reductions for 13,500 properties for a total of over $8 billion in assessed value, which we expect to eventually will grow to $20 billion. This is really important. A lot of these folks will be getting, if they paid their taxes already, they will be getting refunds. If not, they'll be getting corrected tax bills. I am supporting a rather robust package of legislation to help provide additional relief to property owners, and I want to commend Senators Ben Allen and Sasha Hydee Perez and Senator Jerry McInerney for introducing Senate Bill 663, which is a critical measure which will bring meaningful tax relief to our wildfire impacted residents. This bill provides three essential forms of relief. One is it extends the period of time for property owners to file a claim for property tax relief from 12 months to 24 months. We know people don't know everything that they need to do to be compliant. This will give them more time in case they miss those deadlines. It also extends the 5-year rebuild deadline for homeowners to 8 years. We know that a lot of folks won't be able to rebuild in 5 years due to the cost of materials and the accessibility of contractors. This gives them a little bit more time. And then thirdly, as the Senator referred to, for property owners that held a tax-exempt status, such as a religious or charitable or other welfare organization, this will allow them to maintain those exemptions through the rebuilding process without requiring a burdensome refiling application every year. These measures are necessary to provide fast and effective relief to property owners who have suffered from unprecedented destruction caused by the wildfires. And this year, as president of the California Assessors Association, I'm urging members of the state legislature to support this bill. We recognize the challenges faced by local government and assessors' offices in responding to such large-scale disasters, but we think that Senate Bill 663 is a practical measure that will provide that relief. There's other legislation that I'm sponsoring as well. One of them is Assembly Bill 245 by Assemblymember Mike Gibson. There are many property owners whose property were not physically damaged but still experienced a significant drop in market value due to the disaster. These homeowners may qualify for what's called a value decline in value review program, which allows us to temporarily reduce a property's taxable value if the market value falls below its assessed value. Additionally, this bill will allow me to assess those properties as though the damage occurred on January 1st, which is the annual lien date, which is the date we establish the assessment for the coming year, rather than making these homeowners wait till next year to receive that property tax relief. A really important issue that Senator Perez mentioned is Senate Bill 293, and I'm very grateful that she's bringing this forward. There's a lot of people who have inherited property over the years. Maybe it was their grandmas and their mom and dads. They've lived there, they've owned it, they paid the taxes, but when mom and dad died, they never went and changed the deed. The challenge is if your name is not on the deed, it's not your house. And all the property tax benefits, the relief programs that are available are not yours until that's corrected. Fortunately, there are provisions in the law that allow you to correct those ownership records. Unfortunately, it's a very narrow window in order to come into compliance. Senate Bill 293 by Senator Perez will extend that narrow window to 3 years that will allow us the time to reach out to all those property owners to update their property records and take advantage of the property tax relief programs that are available. And finally, Assembly Bill 1253 by Assemblymember Nick Schultz will allow me to align assessment standards with the building code standards. You've heard the number 110% under the governor's emergency declaration. You can build up to 110% for an expedited permit process. That doesn't necessarily apply to your property taxes. AB 1253 will allow us to align those two factors to ensure that people, if they build to 110%, won't be stuck with a supplemental tax bill. And I know residents have a lot of questions regarding their property tax relief forms and want to understand more about the process. I did want to report that on Sunday, April 27th, my office is partnering with Councilmember Traci Park to hold a disaster relief resource fair at the LAX building, and we'll be able to get questions to any answers to your questions that you may have. The last thing I wanted to close with is the Assessor's Office last year launched a program called the Homeowner Alert. It is a free program available to anybody who owns property in LA County. It will notify you by email within 48 hours if somebody's attempting to commit fraud against your property. We're very concerned about people whose property's been damaged. There's a lot of scammers out there. Somebody could come into your property and change the deed. Under normal circumstances, you wouldn't know for 30 or 45 days when a letter comes in the mail. But by registering for the homeowner alert, you'll get an email within 48 hours to ensure that your property is protected. And I'd urge everybody to sign up for that. Senator Allen, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Jeff Prang has been making tax law exciting since 2014. But I appreciate our partnership, and it brings up, there's so many issues that have been raised by these fires that we need to get resolved in law, and that's why I appreciate our partnership. I know I speak for Senator Perez as well. We're all working on legislation together. Another area that we learned about that's a real challenge has to do with the folks who live in a place like this. As terrible as the experience has been for the folks up on the Hill who lost their homes up there, at the very least, they're able to return to their properties, and that land is theirs, and everything on the land is still theirs. In this case, even their access, even their right to their charred remains of their homes, for the folks who have been living in many cases, for many years, in a mobile home park such as the Palisades Bowl and Tahitian Terrace, their rights are deeply called into question, even when it comes to being able to return to their properties. But it gets far worse than this. Current law almost disincentivizes the rebuilding of a home park like this. And so we are seeking to address this. We want to give the homeowners, the property, the folks who've been living here, the right. We want to create a mechanism for the right of first refusal. If an owner wants to close or change the use of the property, we want to give them the first opportunity to purchase the property at market or an agreed upon value to preserve the current use as an affordable mobile home park. If this is not achieved, the owners would also have to give the same opportunity to qualified affordable housing entities or nonprofits to give them the chance to purchase the property and preserve it in its current form. This would give the residents and affordable housing advocates and put them in the driver's seat to preserve these precious places of land that have preserved affordable housing right here on the coast, and indeed hopefully return them to their homes here in the Palisades. This is SB 749. I'm so proud to be working with the Palisades Bowl Community Partnership. Their co-chair, a good person who I've had the pleasure of getting to know over this past 100 days is John Brown, and I want to welcome him to the microphone and thank him for his leadership in standing up for these residents who've lost so much.
Steve, you want to come up here? One of my neighbors is here, and Grace, Vernon, if you guys want to come up too from Tahitian Terrace. John Brown, a good person. I guess I've been referred to as worse things. Senator Allen, you and your staff are just champions for us. Thank you so much. And Mayor Bass, Councilwoman Park, Senator Perez, thank you so much for working on this with us. This is Grace. She lives in Tahitian Terrace, sister park to ours at Palisades Bowl. This is my friend Steve, who also he lived, so we get to see this amazing community right here on the coast here. Steve lived up there. We had a resident, Carolyn. She was 99 years old. She lived over there. My friends, the Damons, lived over here with their 2 kids. I have 2 children myself that went to Palisades Elementary. The Mayor Bass was there last week. We were celebrating the cleanup of that. I'm just an integrated part of the Palisades. I used to people would say, well, where do you live? And I'd say, I live in Pacific Palisades. And they'd be like, ooh, And then I would say, yeah, in a mobile home park. And they'd be like, oh. Or I would say, I live in a mobile home park. And they'd be like, oh, really? In Pacific Palisades. And they'd be like, ooh, that's pretty nice. So, we were very lucky to sort of hack our way into this amazing community, and that's what it is. And again, it's not just numbers, but there were 400 residents here in Palisades Bowl. There were 300 plus in Tahitian Terrace. Over 300 homes burned down flat. All the community. There was a pool right over there where my neighbors Mary Ann and Jeannie would swim every single day. these two older women, and they would fight with Phil because Phil would get in their way doing laps. Steve, my friend here, is a pastor, amazing guy. Ben was a guy. There was guy Mike, who was here for 30 years, who was a lifeguard right here at the beach. This was a really amazing community. Half the people had dogs. We walked our dogs, during the day, and we would stop and, chat with each other. Probably at least a quarter of the community was senior citizens, and again, a bunch of families and kids. It was a way for us to be able to live in the Palisades and go to the amazing schools here. Like Senator Ben Allen was saying, we've had a unique situation here. That from the week of the fires, we had to fight with the owners of this community just to go back to our burnt spaces, to look for wedding rings, to look for our kids' toys. There's a fence. If the media or everybody gets a shot of this later, there's a fence. We're not able still to get in there. There have been times that the owners have given us access, basically under watch, like we're doing something wrong, like we need permission to go look at our burnt spaces to find something maybe that my kids made when they were 2 years old. There's a woman, Georgie, who still to this moment cannot get on there to retrieve the burnt remains that she had from her firstborn that she had in a pot, because she can't navigate it with the owners and all the legal whatever that's going on. She can't even grieve that. She can't even go on there and work that out to figure out how to get on there to do something like that. I mean, this isn't even a hole in the law. This has become an inhumane lack of process. And again, what this SB 749 does is it starts to clean some of this up and give us a path back home. The owners have been uncommunicative. There have been multiple failure to maintain lawsuits against these owners over the years that they've had to settle because they failed to maintain the park, the land here. We as residents love this land. We should be in control of this land more than they should. We are going to be the ones that can honor what this is, affordable living, one of the last pieces of affordable living on the coast in Southern California. There was toxic waste here on 3 major rainstorms that was left here because there was a fence here and the EPA wasn't able to get in. It's not being run right? And again, 749 is giving us ways of respecting this land, making sure that things like that don't continue to happen, that they certainly don't happen to people like Georgie at the next time a mobile home park has a disaster like this. We really need to protect affordable living on the coast. We have like 700 residents that are just dying to get back home. And we still sleep every single night, 100 days after this disaster. And in many ways, and although I'm so grateful for what the Army Corps of Engineers has done, what every staff member, what every politician has done up here, they've done so much. And we're 100 days later, but like Mayor Bass was saying, it's like for us, we're on day one. We don't even know. My kids ask me, Dad, when can we go home? When are we going to go home? I can't give them an answer. I can't even tell them if we're ever going to be able to go home. And we need that option. And I'll say one other thing. There has been rumors, there's been talk. I think some people somehow, which is amazing because a lot of these people, have lost their homes also, and they look at this mobile home park and they go, oh, what a great opportunity this would be for the workers to live here while they're rebuilding the community. We are part of the community. It's not separate. We were homeowners but not landowners, and we need to figure out a way to navigate that. You guys need to support us, not get in the way of us getting back home, just as you do not want anybody getting in your way to get back home. If you do want that, you got to go through my kids and tell them that they're not going to be able to get back home. And you got to tell Georgie, and you got to tell the 99-year-old Carolyn, and you got to tell Jeannie and Marianne, who really like their heated pool, that they can't go back home because the workers have to live here. So just let's all stay together. I want to really, really express again my gratitude for everybody, for my residents at Palisades Bowl and Tahitian Terrace. I just love all of you guys. I feel like what this has done as a community has really brought us together in a lot of ways. And you know, I just want to continue seeing that happen. And again, thank you to everybody that's supporting us.
Thank you, John. John, yeah, stay up here, guys. You know, I hope that the folks from the media will have an opportunity to follow up with some of these residents. What's been going on up here is really messed up. You've heard a little bit of that from John. We're trying to get much of these issues resolved through this bill, but there's still there's still a series of issues that we won't be able to resolve through the bill. And I hope there's some additional media coverage as to what these poor folks have been going through after they've lost so much, and then to have add insult to injury, you know, that you've just heard described. You know, John was here when we brought the housing chair from the state Senate down here, Aisha Wahab. You know, she's working on a bill in close coordination and sponsorship with our city attorney, Hydee, Feldstein Soto, who they're working together on SB 522, which has to do with tenant protections. I want to ask our city attorney to come up and talk about this bill that they're working on together.
Thank you. I think my notes say good morning, but I think we've slipped into good afternoon. So good afternoon. Thank you to Ben Allen for coordinating this. Thank you to my clients, most especially Mayor Bass and Councilwoman Traci Park, for really responding to this community and for bringing together all forces of government. There are people not here from across the state and from the Assembly who've been helping and who've been working on the issues presented by the devastation of the Palisades. Senator Aisha Wahab is one of them. I was in Sacramento on January 7th. I actually had gone up with 8 bills that I was trying to propose, and no sooner did I hear about the fires than I shifted gears and I lobbied and I walked out of Sacramento with 15 ideas for bills that I had promised to draft. I tried to work closely with a number of folks. Assemblymember John Harabedian has a bill that is aimed at some of the devastation, and I was very fortunate that Senator Aisha Wahab, with whom I've got a great relationship, has picked up 522. 522 is aimed to protect the affordable housing that existed in the Palisades and in the other burn areas. 522 provides that rent control, rent stabilization, it's local, it's up to local government, but it simply provides an exemption from state law to permit the rent stabilization ordinance and other rent controlled provisions to apply to the tenants who come back after their property is rebuilt. Mobile home parks are a little tricky because it's not clear how much of it is RV DMV and how much of it is really a home governed by the RSO. And we are working on ensuring that all units of affordable housing in the burn areas preserve their status as affordable for those who live there and who want to return. I've worked a lot on enforcement, and I would urge our policymakers as we go forward with making new policies to think about how do we enforce it, because the law is only as good as the enforcement that comes with it. And so my office has focused in conjunction with the DA's office on price gouging, on looting, on charitable fraud. Be careful of the GoFundMes and make sure that they actually come back to the folks who you intend to help. And there's softer skills. My office was present at what used to be the West Side Pavilion Disaster Recovery Center for weeks afterwards, trying to help shepherd folks through this process. It is a difficult process. I actually want to commend Senator Allen on the selection of the site. I think it's symbolic in many ways. And as I look at the burn scars from the mobile home park, I also notice the wildfire flowers poking up. We've got yellow and orange and purple wildfires coming back. And I would tell you that that is the resiliency of this community, of this neighborhood, of this city, of our county, and of our state. So thank you all for being here, and let's continue to work together to rebuild and to bring back a community that has been at the heartbeat of certainly our coastal areas. Thank you to Malibu for your partnership and for being here as well.
Thank you, Madam City Attorney. And I will say our City Attorney has been a real champion, a fighter for the city on so many matters, including budgetary liability, a whole set of it. She's fearless. So thank you for your leadership. Our last but not least is someone who's an incredible leader in her own right, Hydee Sanborn. She's come down from Northern California. We've been partners for many years on very difficult environmental policy issues, especially focused on extended producer responsibility. One of the many, many things we've learned, and part of why this conference has gone on for so long, is because there's so many issues that this fire raised. In the days after the fire, it is scary how bad the air was throughout the entire Southland. And that's partly because each and every one of us inside our homes have a great deal of household hazardous waste. This is material that may be sitting on our shelves or in our homes in all sorts of different inert forms. And yet when burned or not properly disposed of, it ends up being incredibly dangerous. The truth is, in the immediate aftermath of the fire, we had our air had levels of lead and of about 100 times over normal levels in the air. Chlorine was at about 40% beyond normal levels. We were all breathing that in. You know, I have two little ones. I dread to think of the impact it had on them and all of us, quite frankly. And we've been working for some time on getting a bill across the finish line that will finally create a mechanism for the proper disposal and management of household hazardous waste. It's very relevant to what we just went through with the fires. It's SB 501. Please welcome to the microphone a great environmental leader, Hydee Sanborn.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Hydee Sanborn. I'm the Executive Director of the National Stewardship Action Council. We are a nonprofit organization committed to reducing waste and advancing a circular economy and holding producers responsible for the environmental and public health impacts of the products that they put into the market. Our work focuses on driving real change, and this year we are working to ensure that the toxic products in our homes, like batteries, pesticides, compressed gas cylinders, all have an end-of-life plan. We are going to be driving real systemic change through policies like passing SB 501. Senator Ben Allen is a true champion for the environment, whose policy leadership is the most effective I've seen in my 35 years doing this work. And time again, Senator Allen has led with courage and clarity, pushing for policies that not only address many of today's environmental threats, but the future threats. And his leadership on extended producer responsibility is especially important around the complex and hazardous waste streams like EV batteries and SB 615 and household hazardous waste and SB 501. California has really been a model for the nation, and he has led legislators on study trips to Canada with me for the last 7 years and other states to see how they do producer responsibility policies and how they work. He really digs in and gets to know the policies and makes sure that we do it right. And when it comes to fires, we want to prevent them, and we also want to ensure that we do not leave toxics in our homes that end up in the air and on the land and being a toxic waste problem with ash and smoke. Senator Allen has authored SB 501, and we are proud to be co-sponsors with the Regional Council of Rural Counties and the Resource Recovery Coalition of California. The Resource Recovery Coalition of California is an association of the small waste haulers who are having a really hard time with the fact that we're putting a lot of batteries and explosives into the waste stream, and their trucks are going on fire, the landfills are on fire, and the entire recycling system is at risk now because of these fires. SB 501 addresses household hazardous waste that often lacks any convenient end-of-life plan. Think about what's sitting in your garage or under your sink: butane canisters, pesticides, chemical cleaners, and pool chemicals. These products are dangerous, and when they're stockpiled, illegally dumped, or tossed into the trash or recycling, they put people, property, and our public workers at risk. They spark fires, and we've seen that a lot in garbage trucks. In fact, in Victoria a few years ago, one of our garbage trucks went on fire. The truck driver dropped the load in a parking lot, which is exactly what they're trained to do to save the $250,000 truck. And that fire raced up the hill and killed 2 people in trailer park in their homes. And recycling facilities are going on fire, and we have Chiquita Canyon landfill on fire. This exposes families to toxins and overwhelms already underfunded local household hazardous waste programs. And I do want to say that right now, LA County is spending $14 million a year on managing household hazardous waste and estimates they're only collecting 20% of it. So we have 80% sitting in homes or in trash and recycling where It shouldn't be. So we need a better system. This is about accountability. It's about making sure that products come with a plan, not just for how they're sold, but for how they're safely and responsibly managed at end of life for these toxic products. It's about letting the free market work with reduced regulation through utilizing the polluter pays principle, and in economic terms, internalizing the externalities. This is also about public health, fire prevention, about making sure that our kids, our firefighters, our first responders are not unnecessarily exposed to hazardous products that should never have been stored for years and years in a garage or discarded in the trash and the recycling in the first place. California has led on smart environmental policies before, and with passing SB 501, we will again. Thank you so much to Senator Allen for being such a leader. Thank you for having me here.
Thank you. So this is giving you a little bit of a window into some of the work that's underway right now in Sacramento and with our local partners. We're working on bills also dealing with smarter planning associated with fire and the way that we grow as a society. Do we have adequate ingress and egress? Are we putting in place, are we learning the lessons from this crisis as we think about planning and growth in our communities? I want to give a very special thank you to the legislative leadership in Sacramento, our pro tem, Mike McGuire, who, the speaker, Robert Rivas, both of them have walked these streets. Our governor, Gavin Newsom, who's been here so many times as well. They all are from Northern California, but all three of those gentlemen have pledged support. They've delivered. They continue to show up for Los Angeles. I know that we are all deeply grateful to the three of them for their leadership.